Hey there, friends. So if you've been watching my videos the last couple of days, I picked up this sucker. Let's see if I can get it all the way over here without ruining it. Get rid of the glare there, sort of. Yeah, maybe that's better. That's the new Quad Cortex Mini. So what have we learned in 3 years? I say 3 years because it's been 3 years since I got rid of my Quad Cortex and stopped using Neural DSP products. If you're wondering why, part of the reason was they had promised a desktop app for a couple of years, and they had promised it for a year before I adopted the Quad Cortex. So in essence, you can say it was 3 years coming. And by 2023, I was like, okay, look, this is too frustrating. And I was used to the topography by then, but it was just like, come on, man. Like, just don't tell us it's coming or do it, but all this in-between stuff. And, you know, they were also teasing plugins and such at the time, which it then took them another couple of years to bring to fruition. Hey, I wasn't so concerned about the plugins. I'm sure they're very popular now and they're great, but that wasn't my main concern. And then, of course, they teased that the plugins could be used in these devices, and apparently not all of them can. So if you own some of them, they can't be used in here. Like, for example, the John Mayer Archetype X is not yet available to use in the Quad Mini. So that was one of the reasons I got rid of it. The other one was like not that it was really big. I mean, it was smaller than a Helix, right? The Quad Cortex, definitely smaller than the Helix, but bigger than an HX Stomp. Arguably, it's better, arguably. And I say arguably because there are things about the Line 6 universe that I really like, including some of the amps, not all, but some of the amps. And I love all of the effects. We'll get to effects about the Quad Mini universe in a second. But then I really loved the way clean amps sounded in the Neural DSP concept. That was my big thing. If you go back to my videos from 3-4 years ago, it was like, wow, clean amps sound fantastic. And the overdriven amps sounded okay too, but there was maybe I was just used to the overdriven stuff in the Line 6. And remember, I tried More and NuX and a whole bunch of others in between. I found Line 6 easier to use, easier to recall, easier to back up. Now, yes, Neural DSP has the app. Is the app any good? Yes, it's good. It's good. What's funny is when you open it up, it's got like new next to all the new effects. And since I never had the app before, it lends me to believe that that it's probably these are actually new. Like, they didn't come up with these in the interim between when I got rid of the last device and now. So it took 3 years to get new devices. So that's kind of interesting. And the new effects are good. They're good. The compressors in particular are better, in my opinion. And now there's more of a range. The new Univibe type vibrato is definitely better. However, the legacy one, and it's funny to see legacy next to an effect when it's only like 4 years old, but some of the legacy ones are good for other reasons. Like, I was using it as just like a textural thing, and the new Univibe is definitely a throbby, phasery type vibe, which is great, and I could use that in other contexts, but it's not going to replace my original backups that I did for the Quad Cortex in the cloud. Well, so what have we learned? So some of the new effects are good. I still don't like the reverbs. Like, there's a couple of new reverbs and you see something that says Nordic Hall and you're like, oh, wow, that should sound really good. And it's got to be better than the Mind Hole that they had before. Yeah, maybe. It's good. It's just, does it blow my head off? No. I'm really shocked that it's not that great. There's a reverb called Blossom that's obviously influenced by Strymon. It's like kind of, and it's really cool. I like that one. And the spring reverbs, the new ones are better and more realistic than the old ones, but not by like light years, you know? So yes, the new effects are good. They're not mind-blowing. So that's the first thing I learned. The app is cool. It works. It makes it much easier to deal with the product. However, there's some like not intuitive things in the app. Like you go looking for things that you have in other desktop apps for devices, and you're like, where would this be? And I'm looking to do, why can't I just drag and drop? And, oh, okay, I have to save as to remain, but what, you know, it's really not intuitive. I mean, maybe it is for them. At least it works, though. I'm happy it works, and it synced. It synced right away. However, one thing you should know is if you get this, obviously you're going to have to update it immediately. Like, yeah, I know it just came out, but there's already an update. And if you don't update it, you're not going to be able to sync it to the app. So that's very important. What else have we learned? The Wi-Fi. Remember how we all had the problem connecting Wi-Fi? Like, I was in the room next to my Wi-Fi, and I had to leave that room. I had to leave my studio in Nashville to open the door and go into the next room and sit in front of it with my quad cortex, which was easier when the studio and the room with the Wi-Fi was all on the same floor. Now I'm on the third floor here in London, and it's on the first floor, and I have to go down and sit in front of it again. Yes, they haven't improved the chip, apparently. I don't know why. These are things you should know. So those are the other things we've learned with the new unit. Here's some good stuff. Some good stuff is all of my stuff from the cloud imported, and all of my presets are there. All of my amps, all of my effects. And yes, you can then audition. One cool thing about the app is if you click on an effect, it lets you go through and audition other effects in the same category and hear it while you're playing. And then if you want to keep the new one, you just hit return. If you don't, if you want to stick with the old one, you hit escape. Fantastic. I love that option. That's super great. The sound is good. The sound is typically what I would expect. And all the routing is the same. Of course, you don't have as many gazintas and gazautas, but it's also 9 inches by 5 inches. And it's not this big. You know, it's not the size of, you know, a small pedal board. So that's good. Apparently you can have two different, so one of my patches that I pulled up from the cloud was if I was playing a gig and I wanted to have an acoustic guitar go into one input and an electric go into another and just leave them plugged in and switch between them. Apparently, my patches came right up, like no problem, and they worked. Now, you're going to have to figure out other ways to send them to the two outputs so that that's not going to be the same. But the fact that it supported the CPU load and everything that I used, which was, you know, like 14 in each patch. So that's like 28 effects. That's double thumbs up. I was very impressed by that. Yeah, and the sound is good. I got my, it only took me, I would say it took me about an hour and a half to 2 hours to tweak all my sounds. I'm using the same electric guitars that I was 3 years ago, my lap steel and my electric 6-string. However, I'm using a different acoustic, so I had to change the patch a little bit. I had to put in a new IR, one that I was using with my Line 6 stuff, and tweak. The good thing I did was I took pictures of all of my settings in my Line 6 stuff. I kind of knew what the EQs would be and chorus and whatever. However, that didn't translate one-to-one, so you should know that when I went in, even if I chose a graphic EQ here and a parametric EQ here. Obviously, right? They're not exactly the same. You can copy precisely the same settings and it's not going to sound the same. But it only took maybe a half an hour to tweak those to get them to where it sounded the same, as good or better than my line 6 stuff. So that's a plus. I like that it's smaller. Right now, I have it set up so I can go from, the 4 buttons on the front. So the 4 buttons on the front, let me get the glare out of there, right? I'm sorry, that's the only way I tilt it, right? So these 4 buttons are set for presets. You can set it to do other things. What I'm gonna do is to turn effects on and off. Now you can reach down and touch them, of course, but I'm gonna get the Morningstar has a 4 switcher. They have a 6 and an 8, but they have little. It's great. It's a little compatible, little compact 4 switcher, and that's the most I'll ever have to turn on in a patch. That'll be cool. And then you could, if you have a separate switcher, and you'll be like, oh, but why not get a quad cortex? Well, the quad cortex is twice as high as this and a little longer. So, and you can't configure where those switches are. Perhaps you want this thing to be up here on a pedal board and the switcher be down here and then have a few pedals here, right? That way you can customize more what you want precisely. What will I do? Well, if I'm playing lap steel, if I'm playing improvisational lap steel, I will have this as basically my amps, my delays, my reverbs, my core sound. And in the effects loop, I will have 3 or 4 other things. And then the 3 or 4 things that need to be turned on or off in here will be on the switcher. So that's where I was getting at with the quad cortex is, sure, it had like 8 whatever switches and you could turn things on and off. But if you wanted to use it with other things, because there are things that I love, like say the Red Panda Tensor, or the PolyFX Trails, or the Chase Bliss Mood. Like these are things that are staples for me, that like there's no negotiation, like those have to be in my rig. Well, to use those, to add those to something that's like twice as big or more than twice as big as the Mini, well, then you're taking up a lot of real estate and you got more tap dancing. So while the quad cortex, if you just want to have like, compressor, drives, delays, modulation and filters, whammy, turn them on and off and have something all encompassed in one, then yes, then the quad cortex is for you. If that's all you need and you just want to like carry one thing, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But again, I travel way more for music. I've been doing this professionally. I'm in my 4th decade. And the airlines are getting more and more difficult I have to check my guitars. They're not going to let you take your guitars on planes most of the time anymore, especially small planes. So I have to check them. Now, I have special cases for that, right? Cool. But everything else that I cherish that's important to my gig has got to come with me. So to have something smaller like this, the 3 or 4 pedals I need on a very small compact board that fits in my my cabin rollie that I'm taking with me with my backpack on the plane, I just think that's super valuable for me. Maybe not for you, but for me. So that's why I would make this decision over the big one. But hey, again, the big one might be cool for you. So what else have we learned? Oh, the other good thing from all of this was all of the expression assignments that I had from my previous presets that I backed up to the cloud were all there. So you might say, yeah, duh. Well, I'm just glad that they are so I don't have to reprogram everything. Again, I probably had things programmed to the switches of the quad cortex, but I'll have to reprogram that to the Morningstar the MC4 Pro, I think it's called. And that will be via MIDI, because I am going to use the effects loop and other things, and I'm going to have probably a volume pedal in there when I'm playing lap steel, not when I'm playing acoustic. And I don't think they'll be for the same gigs. I think when I'm going out to play my singer-songwriter stuff, I will just take that and a couple other things, and they'll all fit into my carry-on bag. When I'm doing lap steel and stuff like that, yeah, I'm going to be also bringing a volume pedal. I might have had a volume pedal programmed in the Quad Cortex, but weirdly, I'm not seeing it in my backup. So maybe I didn't. Maybe I was using, an analog, hardwired volume pedal back then. So, but yeah, so far so good. But there's going to be some growing pains. I'd like to see more better effects. I don't think those are going to come for a while. And of course, it's perfectly reasonable to use the Quad Mini and just have, this little 9x5 thing to do gigs with. Like, you can do everything with that, whether it's acoustic or electric. I'm pretty sure if I absolutely had to, because it sounds pretty good here, that, if I had to turn things on and off, I could just reach down and touch it. In fact, put it on a chair next to you. And if you need to turn something on, or a music stand or something, right there, and you could just, press on things. So if I absolutely had to, especially acoustic gigs, I could probably get by with just that. And that would be great. But for the time being, I'm not going to be using, if I can avoid it, I'm not going to be using the compressors that much if I can avoid it. Meaning, if I can put the compressors on a small board and take it with this, that would be my preference. And then any other weird things that don't come in devices like these. I mean, let's be honest, it's like Line 6, any of these places are not really making stuff that can compete with a Tensor or a Mood or a Lost and Found or, any David Rollo's effects, any, weird, wonderful, wild, glitchy, granular things. They're just, it's not happening yet. It might. And when that time comes, I'll be very happy when they can be in these devices. But okay, so that's what we've learned so far, and I'll keep you posted as I dig in a little further. Oh, one last thing I should say. I made a comment before on another video that I tried some of the captures for the John Mayer, because like I said, the John Mayer Archetype X is not available in the Mini yet. So some people did captures of it and put it up at the cloud. And I listened to quite a few of them, and they sounded horrible. But I have found a couple that sound really, really good and open. One of them is John Cordy's, and the other one is something John Mayer Archetype X. Those are, and they should be the first couple that in the first few that come up if you search. Those sounded really good. And then there was another guy that also, I have to commend him. It was 23 captures, I think it was. And he did a capture at every level. So from clean all the way to full blown. Those were really good. What I will say about the Dumble search on Neural Quad Cortex World DSP is that the reason some of them don't sound good to me is because none of those people have ever played one, and they're so blown out. Like when they're overdriven, and they're not open in the top, and the clarity and the responsiveness isn't there. Like, they're so concerned about getting this overdrive sound that they're missing all the delicacies and everything that makes them special. So that's why I made that comment about not liking them. They're all blown out, like so blown out. Like even the medium overdrive sounds that I heard were horrible. horrible of any of the dumbbell. So whether it's the dumbbell, which is the one built into these units, or the captures of the Mayor X, I could only find 3 that sounded halfway decent at any stage of gain. And the rest were just like ridiculous. Like, I don't know what they're playing at, but no one's going to use those, in my opinion. So, all right, that's what we've learned. If you have any questions, hit me up. Glad to answer them. And I'm going to keep digging into this a little more and use it every day and try to see if I can make it better. All right, thanks for watching.